I'll start by introducing myself again. So I'm Lilith Safford. I'm a senior at Taos High School.
I'm Isabella O'Donnell Silverberg, and I'm also a senior at Taos High School.
Thanks for being with us today and taking the time to chat with us. Just to get things started, I kind of want to ask, I know you're in the middle of a legislative session. So what's kind of going on? What sort of things are happening right now? What are you thinking?
It's really kind of bonkers. I've never experienced a 30-day legislative session. So there's last year was a 60-day, and so there's just at this point last year, we were still kind of introducing bills, moving through the committee process. Some bills were being heard on the floor, but now we've got 10 days left, and our side, the House side, has 250 bills that we've introduced, and I think the Senate is maybe about the same, maybe a tiny bit fewer, and that is actually fewer than any other year before. Typically in a 30-day session, there's like 1,000 bills in either house, so in either chamber, which means that like people are presenting bills and they're in their own committees listening to bills, and then they have to go to another committee and present, and maybe their bill is in the Senate at the same time, like another one of their bills. So it's a really it's kind of a time management issue. But there's also, there's like this rush quality that's happening right now. And then there's sort of like, I don't know if you've ever been river rafting, but there's this sort of the things happens where everybody's like, you got it, like, let's go guys, strap everything down. And you do all that stuff, right? Rush. And then you just sit there for like an hour and a half because like someone has like forgotten some really critical thing. So that's sort of what is also happening at the same time. This, hurry up and wait.
Exactly.
So we're in a recess right now because there were some things that happened procedurally on the floor, with a bill being kind of pulled off and then put back on, and meetings and decisions, and now we're waiting everybody's out in committee, and we're going to come back to the floor this evening at 8. So I have a little break. I have a dinner, and then I'm going to come back at 8, and we're going to debate a bill that we probably were going to debate, I think, at 10:45 this morning. So those are the kinds of things that can happen. But meanwhile, everybody that you're working with, the advocates who are working with, the legislator to push something forward, push something through, that's not on hold, right? That's still happening. And so, it's really fascinating and very exhausting. And you forget to drink water, and you often drink too much coffee. So, and that's what's happening. Maybe you eat Cheetos instead of a salad. That also happens. Maybe it happened today, maybe it didn't. But I'm excited. Like we have a huge monumental budget that we just passed, over $8 billion. That does a lot of really amazing things. It's really transformative. And I'm excited about that. We're doing a lot of really interesting, sometimes maybe controversial things. What's not controversial is the fight for increasing teachers' salaries, which your teachers at Taos High will be very excited about.
One was talking about it this morning, actually. Yeah.
They're already
excited.
Huge deal, right? Like that's huge and very, very needed, very needed. So that's definitely a priority of ours. Voting rights, making voting day a holiday. Sadly, the language to take out the right for 16 and 17-year-olds to vote has been stricken. That's been taken out on the Senate side. I'm really sad about that.
Us
because,
too.
Yeah. I heard there's another representative here who said that there's the thing about voting rights, and like, even those 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds may not have the emotional maturity, like frankly, like I think the two of you do. There's something about making voting chronic, where you create chronic voters, which I thought was really kind of sort of a funny little take on this, but like totally real. Like we want people to be excited about voting.
Yeah.
And and that happens, that should happen at an early age. So I'm really sad about that. One of the bill sponsors is like right behind me. I'm gonna do this. Beep, 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 beep. That dude right there.
Yeah.
He's that is Javier Martinez. He's our majority leader, and he's gonna carry that voting rights bill when it comes over to the House from the Senate side. He's new, he's awesome. I love working with this team of people. So those are two things that are really kind of very, very exciting. I'm going to stop because you probably have questions. I could probably talk about this forever.
Well, I mean, you're actually answering a lot of our questions in the process. The next thing was going to be, what's your main issue? What's your biggest priority? So you told us a few things like voting rights. Yeah. Could you elaborate on one other thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm lead on 3 bills and carrying like maybe 8 where I've I'm working with the other bill sponsor to kind of usher it through. But my focus last year was sort of environmental issues. It's again, conservation and energy. So Saturday, I just passed on the House my biggest priority bill, which is HB 37A. That means it's been amended in committee. And that bill will set up a fund for community energy efficiency. So what that means is like the town of Taos or Taos County can apply for money and help low-income neighborhoods get energy efficient products or insulation or windows, right? And so the real issue that the problem that's solving is that energy is expensive, right? Utilities are expensive, and poor people have less efficient, refrigerators or washing machines. They don't have heat pumps. They don't have because it's expensive to do these things, right? So poor people pay a disproportionate amount of their income to utilities, like sometimes up to like 30% in some places, right? So can you imagine, like making less than $30,000 a year, which is most of our county, and having a $300 to $500 electricity bill because you've got a bunch of old appliances? Like, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's messed up. So this bill will provide some funding for towns and counties and tribes to make homes for low-income folks more efficient. And I think that is really important, right? It reduces your energy burden. It reduces your utility bill. It reduces emissions, right? So, and it makes your house safer because you've got good products. So
congratulations.
It passed the House.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So
it was
much.
A huge deal for me. I had to stand up for 2.5 hours while I was debating. That's another thing, that when you're debating on the floor, you have to stand. So I had like all this water and tea in front of me, but I couldn't drink very much of it because I you cannot leave your seat, and you cannot leave your area, and you cannot sit down. So it was very exciting. So that just happened Saturday, and now it's going to the Senate. So
that's awesome.
That's been one of my biggest priorities. But a lot of stuff that's floating around right now is the discussion around hydrogen. So creating a hydrogen hub in New Mexico. So it's been very exciting conversation, very controversial. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sure. And yeah.
What
quite.
What specifically about hydrogen is so controversial?
There are a number of things. What is on the table is potentially funding to create a hydrogen hub in different areas of the state, but specifically in the Northwest area. So I think that hydrogen is really interesting, right? Like, it's probably going to be our next energy source, sort of energy system. But there are ways to do it, right? There are ways to produce hydrogen to be used for energy that are less polluting, less emitting of methane. You're basically, you use methane as the source fuel, the feedstock, right? And there are points along the process where greenhouse gases are emitted. And so I guess I know that the fear from, many environmentalists, conservationists, social justice, racial, environmental justice groups are that we're going to be emitting more greenhouse gases than what we're trying to sort of mitigate. So, the technology is really interesting, but it's not really solidified yet. So there's really robust discussion around, like, is this the right thing right now? Should we use money for it? How is this going to help us meet our climate goals of reducing emissions? Does it work? And that's like, I have been in conversations before with, outside of the legislature, like, how do we make things better, right? But this is really like, we're digging in. We're like reading all these documents and books and expert opinions and trying to make a decision on a huge, like, energy system, a huge way of like shifting from oil and gas to something different. So, which, and the opponents will say that what we're doing now with the hydrogen hub is not shifting away from oil and gas, that we're using sort of dirty fuels to feed this process. So I'm not an engineer. You all know me. I work at the Land Trust. So, I'm having to kind of like remember physics and chemistry from 30 something years ago. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but it's really, it is exciting to be amongst people who have a certain viewpoint and who are processing information very quickly, which is what we're doing. So yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that's super challenging, along with having to do things halfway online and in masks and all this stuff. So,
right. For sure. Because you can't see people's faces.
Yeah. No, it's hard. You can't like gauge reactions and know what you should say next. It's really removes a whole.
You get really good at like,
the eyes,
the mask smile,
and hands like, oh, so yeah, that happens too.
Out of all of these things that are difficult, what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far?
I think that it's an endurance race, right? And so there's a lot of information that comes in very, very quickly, and we also have to be sitting for a long time and then like running around. So I think keeping, making sure that you have the stamina to keep up with it all, I think is, that's challenging.
Yeah.
So, I think that's, we have very long days. My committee started at 8:30 or 8, and they'll go to like 11-ish or so typically. And then we'll go to the floor, and then we'll come back to committee, and then we'll go back to the floor, and then there's some dinner. So it's like long days where people are kind of tired. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit of a challenge. I mean, I would like to see a legislature that has a longer time period, a longer term, right? So, the session length, I'd like it to be 60 days or 75 days or 90 days. That I think would be, it's hard to make decisions. So many decisions that we have to make so quickly when we're all doing the things that we care about. So I'm trying to convince you that you should care about the thing that I'm doing. But meanwhile, I'm getting calls from all these other legislators saying, you've got to vote this way. Mm-hmm. So that's also hard. So I'm giving you a couple of challenging things. You got to drink a lot of water. You got to be ready, and you got to be fast, and you got to be prepared for things to slow down.
Yeah.
They're hard decisions too. It's not like it's something you can just easily say yes or no. There's a lot that goes into
exactly.
A lot you have to know.
Absolutely.
To make an educated decision.
Totally.
So much. Well, with everything having been online the past year and how coronavirus has disrupted, especially public education in New Mexico.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you've heard at least some talk about the school system and what's going on with it right now. And we're wondering, just as members of the youth and as members of True Kids One, either what's something you think or what's something you've heard mentioned that the state can do to help improve media and technology in the public school system and help kids utilize these kinds of resources?
I'm just seeing this. Hold on, let me see if I can pop out I'm going to pop out my AirPods for a second.
Okay.
I'm going to put on mute.
Okay.
And then I'm going to bring the leader over because I think that's an excellent question. And I'd like to know if you can ask him.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Sounds awesome.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. How about that? Now you can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you introduce yourself and then I'll introduce you to our House Majority Leader?
Yeah, I'm Lilith Safford.
I'm Isabella O'Donnell Silverberg, and
We're
seniors.
at Taos High School.
Nice.
Members of True Kids 1 as well.
Yeah.
This is our House Majority Leader, Javier Martinez. He represents a part of Albuquerque. So they asked a really great question that I'm going to ask you to, pop it up again.
Sure. Well, we were just asking Kristina. I was just kind of like, I'm sure that with everything going on, with things being online, and the disruption that COVID has caused in the public school system, I'm sure there's been a lot of talk about kids doing things online and how difficult it is. And we're wondering, as members of the public school system and as members of True Kids 1, which focuses on youth and media and technology, what do you think, or what have you heard people talking about the state can do to help kids utilize technology resources and use media to make this situation better?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the pandemic and forcing us into these Zoom spaces has forced us to think outside the box when it comes to how we teach our young people, and it's forced us to think more in terms of how young people interact, right? I mean, I have a niece who's a high schooler, and I feel like 2 years ago we would have been on her case about her usage of her phone. But in fact, many times she's like literally legitimately doing homework, and it's a lot easier for her to do it on her phone sometimes than it is to get a laptop out or whatever. And she's like, and it allows her to do stuff on the run. She doesn't have to be sitting behind a desk somewhere doing a lesson. I mean, she literally could be anywhere. So that's one thing. I think the other thing that it's forced us to do finally, the policymakers, is to invest and put our money where our mouth is. So when it comes to things like broadband, for example, really deploying those resources into every community so that we have the ability to do what we're doing right now. Thirdly, one of the things that I'm very invested in and interested in is ensuring that folks like you all, young people, have the ability to participate in our democracy. So I'm big on extending the right to vote to young people 16 and 17 years of age, and getting you to participate in that civic process early on. Because I'll tell you what, if all of a sudden me, the politician, comes to you for a vote, the questions you're going to ask me are very different than when I go knock on the door of a 60-year-old voter. And that is when we're going to start to get the change that we need in spaces like this legislature in response to the true needs of our young people.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you have time to answer one or two more questions?
Sure.
Well, we were just wondering, and we asked Kristina the same thing. If you could tell us your biggest priority and your biggest challenge in this legislative session so far.
Oh man, I'm curious to hear Kristina's responses to that one.
They've been recorded, so you can watch them eventually.
So she can't change her mind.
Nope. I can't change my vote.
Your mind. Okay, the biggest okay, repeat that for me. The biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity.
Yeah,
priority.
Your biggest challenge and biggest priority.
Okay, my biggest priority is to ensure that my colleagues like Kristina and the other 43 members of our caucus are successful in the next 9 days, and that they are able to get the policy proposals that are a priority for them and their communities through the finish line. Number one priority. The biggest challenge is the clock. We have 9 days to get a lot of stuff done. And that means that as the floor leader, I have to work and coordinate with our leadership team to make sure that things are moving, to make sure that things are timed the right way, to make sure that we have the votes to pass things, and then to negotiate on the Senate side, because obviously we've got to get their approval as well on the things that we pass to make sure that there's a passage, a safe passage, if you will, for those priorities.
Mhm. And
And
just out
voting
of curiosity,
Voting rights.
that too. Just out of curiosity, how long, because Kristina also mentioned, or Representative Ortez also mentioned the amount of time you have left. How long on average does it take to deal with a bill?
Well,
Or does it depend too much?
it really depends, right? So any bill introduced is probably going to have 2 committee assignments. So generally speaking, that could take a couple weeks.
Mhm.
Then you're on the floor for a floor vote, which is roughly about a little after halfway, which is right about now. As bills start moving to the other side, then they have another 1 to 2 committees to go through, the Senate. And that can take anywhere between, a week to 10 days, a couple weeks. But as one of the elders in this building told me one time, 12 hours is a long time around here. If you really want to get something done, you don't need 2 weeks. Sometimes all you need is about 12 hours. So that's about how long it takes. Now, if it's a big bill, a big priority, I can tell you, I had a bill that I actually ran for this office in part because of my frustration at the inability of the legislature to pass it. That was a constitutional amendment. It took us 10 years to pass that bill.
Wow.
Early childhood, and we
Right.
finally passed it last session.
Right.
So that's exactly right. We have a colleague here.
Your other,
Susan Herrera.
yeah, our other Taos representative. She's on the other side. I'm just gonna do this. Say hi.
Who is that?
True Taos kids.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
You guys are in the video.
I
I
know.
will leave. I'm sorry.
No, you're
No,
good.
you guys were
You're good.
doing
You're
this.
good. You're good.
No, no, listen, but don't trust these guys.
We're
No,
on.
no, no,
we're
no,
being
no.
recorded,
Oh my
Susan.
We're gonna
I'm
reach out to you for an interview sometime
Yeah,
soon.
we may be
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
with you by
With
yourself.
that,
Listen and on me.
I'm going to.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, it sounds like you guys have fun over there.
I know, it seems like a whole.
You know what? We
Oh,
do. We do. I think that's really
Yeah.
important. When I talk about like the stamina that you need to get through this and the speed, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, right? But at the end of the day, we really care about each other. We want to help each other. We tell a lot of jokes. Some of them are not great, to be honest. Some of them are excellent,
That's right.
but we have a good time
Yeah,
because
that's
you know,
awesome.
we're spending a lot of time with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you get things done.
Thank you so much. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
thank you
you.
very much. Well, then I guess we'll move on to our last question.
Just to wrap up, thank you so much for taking the time, but this last thing, is there anything else that's on your mind or that you want to tell us, or really just anything else in
What do you
general?
think we should know? What should we take away?
I think you should know that that your legislators work for you. Okay, so when you have something that you think needs to be changed, you need to talk to us. You should also know that we can't make things happen immediately, right?
Might
The
take
things
10
that
years.
right, it might take 10 years. The things that we do here as a body, and there's so much collaboration that is needed. And sometimes, and we're also running against the clock, right? So, you may not be able to do something immediately, but you can start the work, and then you can do that work throughout the interim committees, and then, over the summer, and then come back and try to craft a bill. So, it's really hard work that we're doing, but I think everybody here loves doing it. And we really like to work with each other, and we like to do things together, collaboratively, so that we can, make things happen. Right. And I don't know if it's, just because I'm in here doesn't mean that I'm sure things have always been amazing, but it feels really good to be here now. We've got a majority women in the House, which is awesome. And then, things shift. There's a lot that's going on behind me. So, it's just a really incredible place. And I want you guys to think about what your role is in representing your community. And there are various ways that you can represent your community. And I really encourage you to think about like what it looks like to run for office. Truly.
I've thought about it.
I'm so glad that you have. I think when I was your age, I thought about it too. And then I didn't think about it for like 20 years and many more than that, I think. And, so when someone says, you should really think about it, really think about it. And, it's really, there's nothing like it. And I'm honored, truly, truly honored to represent Taos, to represent my community, and I want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, we're honored to have been able to talk to you today. We know that you're very, very busy. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Sorry it took so long, but we got here.
No, that was amazing. You've given us awesome answers, and we have not had a lot of that recently. So thank you so much.
It was very inspirational.
And you got the House Majority Leader who's
I know.
Yeah, that was an unexpected bonus.
I can't even explain how awesome it is to like just I'm going to keep on going, but like just to sit and work with people who are so smart and who are strategic, which is like what our body is. It's great.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It sounds so amazing.
Guys.
Yeah,
and you can come visit if you want to come up here. If you are,
we've talked about it.
Yeah,
have a vaccination card. You can come and you can be my guest. You can sit up in the gallery. We'll introduce you. No, I'm for reals. Dead serious.
That
so
sounds
awesome.
amazing.
Gotta do it soon.
Okay.
We only have 9 days left, so let me know.
All right.
You can even come on a Saturday. We are going to be working on Saturday and Sunday, though. I think Sunday is the Super Bowl, so maybe not that Sunday. But think about it. Come on.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Sandy. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.